I'm joined in studio by Stephen Tahmassebi, Deputy General Counsel for the NRA OGC, Office of the General Counsel. Stephen, thank you for coming in studio to talk to us about our case tonight for the NRA Civil Rights Roundup. What are we talking about tonight?
Yeah, it's the Chan v. Seattle case, and that's a case that we filed back in 2009. And, once again, John, it's just one of these cases where you have these mayors, these city council members who just don't care about the fact that they took an oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws. And what we have in Seattle is there's a state firearms preemption law, and,
right?
And firearms preemption law, just for those folks who heard that term for the first time, it's where the state government said, look, we're preempting the entire field of regulation of firearms. Legislation and policy will be made at the state level,
right.
And a local government, which exists at the sufferance of the state government, has no authority to act in regards to firearms.
Which is sort of, for the layman's, the municipal and the county and state can't make tougher or different gun laws than the state uber alles.
Well, they can't make, and they vary. The different preemption laws vary depending on state to state. But the Virginia one or the Washington State one says you local government cannot regulate firearms. There's a few exceptions.
Right.
But the idea is, and there's a purpose behind this. First of all, remember local government like cities, counties, etc. They exist at the sufferance of the state government. And secondarily, you don't want a patchwork of jurisdictions all with different firearms regulations where you drive a mile down the road and there's a ban, and then you drive another mile and it's okay, and then another mile and there's a regulation. And I mean, that would just be wholesale confusion,
And sooner or later, everybody becomes a criminal one way or the other.
Exactly. And then the other problem that you would have is that these local governments would, if they're predisposed towards not liking a particular constitutional right, they would just ignore it, as did the city of Seattle and then Mayor Nichols. And not
Mayor
only
Nichols. I've heard of him before.
Yeah, well, again, one of these guys who just, he took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, of the state of Washington, and to uphold the laws of the state of Washington. Well, here is a very clear law, and let me read it to you. There ain't no ifs, buts about it, okay? Here's what the Washington State Preemption Law says, quote, the state of Washington hereby fully occupies and preempts the entire field of firearms regulation within the boundaries of the state, including the possession of firearms or any other element relating to firearms or parts thereof. Unquote.
Pretty clear.
I mean, does it get any? We preempt the entire field of regulation of firearms. It doesn't get clearer than that. And, not only is the right to keep and bear arms protected under the Second Amendment, but also Article 1, Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution preempts it on the state level. Now, despite this fact, Mayor Nichols on June 6, 2008, sends out an executive order asking everybody who works for a city government to try to figure out how to get around this and how to ban guns, okay? So he's trying to figure out how to get around the law.
Right.
Okay?
So if you don't know Mayor Nichols, we have an anti-gun mayor with an agenda here. That's my interpretation. What's going on?
Well, that's exactly what's going on. But think about this. You have a mayor ordering his employees, the city employees, to try to figure out how to get around the state law. Okay? And they're being paid with tax dollars. Well, when he gave that executive order, subsequent to that, in October 2008, Washington State Attorney General Rob McKenna issued an opinion on this subject matter. And here's what he said. Here's the opinion. This is what he says. Quote, he sets out the issue. Quote, does a city in Washington have the authority to enact a local law that prohibits possession of firearms on city property or in city-owned facilities? Question mark. And then he answers the question. Quote, the answer to your question is no. RCW 9.41.290, that's the preemption statute,
right,
fully occupies and preempts the entire field of firearms regulation and preempts a city's authority to adopt firearms laws or regulations of application to the general public unless specifically authorized by state law. Accordingly, RCW 9.41.290, the state preemption law, preempts a city's authority to enact local laws that prohibit possession of firearms on city property or in city-owned facilities, unquote. Okay, you got the law, you got the Attorney General of the state saying,
Right.
hey, you can't do this, don't even think about it,
So you have the law, the Attorney General backing up the law.
and it tells you you can't do it.
Don't do it.
do it. You know.
But
And-
what does Mayor Nichols do?
Oh, well, we know what he does in the city. Yeah, to heck with the law. You know, the law doesn't matter.
Don't let the law get in your way. Don't let, Stephen, let the truth get in the way of your anti-gun agenda, or the law, that is.
So he has the city enact. They called it a rule/policy. Rule/policy number P-060-8.14, and basically what that was, it prohibited the possession of firearms, the carrying of concealed firearms, or display of firearms at Parks Department facilities at which children are present. And so basically they banned guns in parks and other public facilities.
Right.
But again, state law says you can't do it. The Attorney General just said, don't do it. You can't do it. It's unlawful. You don't have the authority to do it. And so the NRA filed a lawsuit. We had a bunch of named plaintiffs too. I mean, one of them is Miss Winnie Chan, and that's the name of the case.
The Chan case. Yeah.
And she is a parole officer, probation officer, and for when she's on duty, she carries a firearm, a state-issued firearm for a job, because it's a dangerous job. You're dealing with dangerous people, parolees, folks who have, including murderers who have been paroled.
Yeah, real bad people.
Now, she has training in firearms, her job training in firearms. Now, she wants to carry, she also has her own personally licensed firearm. She wants to carry a firearm on her own when she's off duty, because once in a while she runs into these people, people that she had helped put back into prison who may have served years in prison because of her. And she has a reasonable fear that some of these people may not take too kindly to the fact that they were put in prison, with her help,
You think.
we got other plaintiffs, for instance, a business owner, firearms activist, correctional officer, victims of crime, all people who have either been the victim of violent crimes or have a reasonable fear to suspect that they may become the victims of violent crimes.
Right.
And those were the folks who we filed the suit on behalf. Anyways, the case goes forward. The city of Washington fights the suit, but on February 12, 2010, a King County Superior Court ruled and said, look, we're granting the NRA summary judgment motion. You don't have a case, Seattle. And they specifically held two things. One is, look, this city rule, really city law, ordinance, is preempted by state law, as is so abundantly clear, okay? And as you know. And secondarily, the right of these individuals, the plaintiffs, is protected not only by the federal Constitution, but the state Constitution. They specifically mentioned the right to keep and bear arms. So
So the result?
the result is that the then current mayor, what's his name is out of the way now. Nichols, thank you. The then current mayor was Mayor Mike McGinn.
Okay.
He said, quote, "I'm disappointed," unquote. He's disappointed that he has to obey the law. Unbelievable. And the city's attorney's office said, quote, "We will comply with the court order and are weighing with the mayor and the city council the options for an appeal," unquote. Now, at that time, when that opinion came out back in February of 2010, I was on the show here talking to Cam about this, and I said to Cam, I said, "Here's my message to Seattle. Good luck with your frivolous appeal, Seattle." Okay. Well, now we are here. Okay.
Just in time for Christmas.
Just in time
Here
for
it is.
Christmas, an early Christmas present. On October 31st, the Washington Court of Appeals ruled in this case. Okay. And one of the things that the city had argued several things in its appeal. It said, first of all, we're acting in our proprietary capacity. It's our property. Well, that's never gotten you off the hook. You can't, the government can't violate your constitutional rights because they said, hey, it is our proprietary, we're acting in our proprietary capacity. The second thing is they said the city's firearms ban, it's not a criminal statute, so we should be able to get away with it.
Oh, really?
Again, that's no excuse to prohibit. You can't just prohibit constitutionally protected conduct and just say, oh, it's not a criminal statute.
We're playing legal games here.
And it's not I'll tell you why that one really didn't fly in a moment. And the third thing they said, look, this is not a law or a regulation. We called it a rule. So, okay. I mean, now we're playing
Are we
word
parsing
games,
here,
okay?
perhaps?
Well, it's nonsense. Of course it's parsing. It's just ridiculous. And it's nonsense, and the Court of Appeals didn't buy this nonsense, okay? First of all, the Court of Appeals said, look, the preemption law is specific. It's explicit that local government cannot enact laws and ordinances that prohibit firearms possession, okay? Right. And the court specifically held, look, the language of the state preemption statute, the firearms preemption statute, specifically prohibits municipal governments, such as the city of Seattle, from enacting this kind of a law, okay, and prohibiting firearms at parks and park facilities. And they also disagreed with the city of Seattle's argument that, look, this is not a criminal statute, therefore we can get away with it. Because let me tell you what, the statute, the ordinance, the city ordinance, the rule, what they call it, specifically does say, there's no criminal penalty, okay? But the city itself said, and I believe the city attorney too, but certainly the city in the press releases said, look, we're not making it a criminal offense to violate this, but if you show up on the city property in these parks with a firearm, we're going to bust you for trespassing because you're here again. So I mean, look,
Wow.
we're going to put, we're going to hit you with a criminal prohibition on trespassing by saying, yeah. So this just all of these little games.
How disingenuous.
Of course. But in the end effect, all of these word games aside, the city knows it does not have the legal authority to enact this kind of a law.
And Steph, and how many times does it take? How many, with the original ruling, the appeal, the other appeal, and I guess the sad part, where I'm leading to here is not how many times, but it ties up resources for the folks, the defense. They don't. It's a lot of money. The city is using city taxpayer dollars and rules and regulations and city attorneys. They'll go on forever with this because they're trying to push their agenda. They know they're not going to win, but they continue to grind away. And then, thank God for the people like you and the NRA with the Civil Rights Defense Fund to help, but that's not there for everybody.
Well, the one thing that I'd like to, what you just talked about that I'd like to mention, these guys are doing this, they're violating the law on the back of the taxpayer. Okay, because when they fight these lawsuits that try to make them obey the law, they're doing it on tax dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, so
makes it worse.
It's just a gross abuse and discretion abuse of their position. Now, the sad thing is they're doing it. The taxpayer, the Seattle city taxpayer, is paying for this nonsense. But on the other hand, when we bring a lawsuit, we got to expend monies to.
Yeah. And a lot of money. In moving it in just a slightly different direction, a lot of reason they do with the lawsuits about against gun makers and everything, because they just want to bleed them dry, or you don't have money to defend yourself.
Well, in those cases, it was really outrageous because a lot of the plaintiffs, the gun prohibitionists who brought those suits or furthered those suits or helped bring those suits, and those mayors were saying, we're going to drive these people out of business. So, they're filing lawsuits, the mayor suits. They were filing lawsuits against legitimate, law-abiding industries with the express purpose of driving them out of business. And I'll tell you, the danger in that is not only is that, in my mind, an abuse of the legal system, okay, but it really is an abuse and an undermining of our constitutional system of government, okay? We have this constitutional system of government where we have, three separate branches of government, the legislature being one of them and the courts being another one. And you're supposed to pass public policy. You're supposed to have the citizens vote for legislature and the legislature on their behalf enact laws. That's supposed to be public policy, supposed to be reflected in these laws.
Right.
Okay? The courts are not supposed to become some sort of super legislature used by a few elitists,
right,
to overcome the will of the people. And what happens in these cases is the gun prohibitionists, they lose in the court of public opinion, they lose in the legislature, they lose at the ballot initiative, they lose when it comes to voting, and we win.
Right.
We win.
Right.
They lose, and so they go.
Where do they go? They run to court.
We don't like the way democracy works, and we're going to subvert it by filing these frivolous lawsuits, in order to enact social policy, which is supposed to be enacted under our constitutional system of government at the legislative level by people who have been elected by the population, by the citizens. It is a destructive attack on our system of constitutional government, on democracy itself.
And that's why, Stephen, this has become such an important battlefront, what you folks are doing at NRA and other folks, pro-Second Amendment people, to fight this, because this has become the latest area. Now, is this the final word for the Chan case?
Well, they can appeal to the state Supreme Court. I have not heard yet. Remember, the ruling in the Court of Appeals level came on October 31, just very recently, and I haven't heard yet whether they have filed a notice of appeal. But they're doing on the back of the taxpayers. Why not appeal? I don't know whether they've done that yet, whether they filed a notice yet. But certainly, if they do, we'll fight it and we'll win. We'll win.
Well, Stephen, while I have you here, tell folks how they can get more information about the NRA, what you do over at the OGC and the NRA Civil Rights Defense Fund.
Well, the Civil Rights Defense, we were talking about a moment ago how these folks can, basically have their political agenda on the back of the taxpayers' money. Well, we don't have that. Okay, and what we rely on is on NRA members and people with goodwill, people who care about the U.S. Constitution and about the rule of law and about the right to keep and bear arms and protecting that right, donating to the NRA Defense Fund, and you can go to our website, nradefensefund.org. There's no dots or spaces, nradefensefund.org. And we also now have a Facebook page, and that is, you can go there, facebook.com/NRA Defense Fund. So facebook.com/NRA Defense Fund. And you can go on our website, look at the status of some of these cases, and find out how to donate money to the... And remember, the NRA Defense Fund, the NRA Civil Rights Defense Fund is a 501c3 entity, which means that donations to it are tax deductible.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Stephen, so much for the great work that you and your colleagues do over there at NRA, and it's so necessary, more necessary than ever. And we appreciate you taking the time to come in here and talk to us here on the NRA Civil Rights Roundup and talk about an important case like this and the important work you're doing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John.